Well, I know it's not exactly like this. At the end of the day, though, it's still very funny when you realize that the final fight of this episode of a Demon Lord anime is more or less a Demon Lord telling his opponent, who is a goddess, essentially that a lot of her shenanigans and her frustrations and misunderstandings of this is all because she's actually secretly in love. We were one or two steps away from our Demon Lord sitting her down and having the birds and the bees talk. And that is just hilarious to me. But we finish it up. Demon Lord 2099 has come to an end. Sadly, there's no Season 2 announcement as it stands. I still think we will get one eventually. I know the studio in question is got a lot on their plate as of late, but a production committee, they like Demon Lord stories, so even if we couldn't have the same studio come back, I assume we will get a Season 2 confirmation sooner rather than later. But there's a lot of potential for this world. We've already gotten a good taste of two different styles of anime that this show worked with. The future possibility, especially with them now teasing more characters. I mean, one of the characters seemingly that they used to interact with, I think they called her May, lost her memories there, but yeah, like there's a lot going on here. The plot line with the whole furnace, we still got to do something with that. It was just a really, really good show, and I think one of the freshest, if not the freshest, Demon Lord anime we've seen in a hot minute, if not ever. It's just, we need more. And yeah, I really hope we do get it. But I do got full live reactions over on Patreon if you want to see my full and thoughts on any of this greatness. It's going to be over there exclusively. So, for a final episode, I would personally say episode 12. I'm not saying it's movie quality, because it's not. But I would honestly argue it's closer to movie quality than it is to TV animation quality. They came out swinging. Like, the atmosphere, the directing, like, it was good. Like, there's a lot of what you expect from the show, and the show's pretty good with action, don't get it twisted. But more often than not, when the action was really going, I was like, yeah, that's actually closer to a movie level production than it is TV. Not to say that the show's been looking bad up to this point, but they delivered on the final episode. Which used to be kind of how anime used to be, right? Like, you'd get, like, the first and last episodes were always the best produced, and everything else, you know, they tried their best, but they just never looked the same, because first impressions, last impressions, they're always the most important, right? And it kind of just felt like we had a pretty good production overall. Like, not the best. Like, there was definitely animation hiccups where characters were just walking in place for 5 minutes at a time in previous episodes. It was like 2 minutes, but felt like 5 minutes. But action-wise, I think they handled it quite well. And I think the overall resolution, especially with how they tied in Hero Graham, wasn't expecting Graham at all in this arc. I thought, if anything, he would pop up again in Season 2, but I just didn't think he had any relation of what was going to happen. And how they tied in that apology with Graham, I thought was a really clever way, not only to incorporate him in this emotional turmoil, but also bring him into the final fight, because this is actually the first time that 𝑩𝒊𝒄𝒅𝒔, our Demon Lord, has actually really struggled since getting a decent amount of followers on his Twitch account since the beginning of the show. Like, yeah, he struggled playing video games, and he struggled at the very beginning when he had no power, but since then he's pretty much been on cruise control, and he's felt like a Demon Lord. He wasn't enough for this goddess. He actually had to team up with the hero, and he was perfectly fine with that. But it's nice to see that, you know, the all-powerful Demon Lord, despite having his 3 million subscriptions, I generally wonder how many of those are paid subs, but, you know, he still isn't at, like, the all-powerful level just yet, and I do like how they incorporated the hero, of course, into the entire equation. Just in general, like, I felt like it was satisfactory. Like, there's not really anything I would change necessarily. I actually really enjoyed what they did with the goddess storyline. And I think the resolution with the King of Akihabara was a really satisfying resolution, because literally I'm thinking to myself, okay, where's her character gonna go now that this has all happened? And then they give her the crown, and I'm like, okay, well, that answers that. You know, it'd be interesting. Season 2, she'd be the king. Kind of weird that they always call it a king, even though, like, can't she be the queen? I guess king's just going to be the gender neutral term for, you know, the ruler of Akihabara. That's fine. And with her one and only decree, she's like, I take this. This is my power. And now I relinquish it. No one gets it. And I love basically this dude who's like letting her talk, has his hand on a gun the whole time. Like, if she would have said the wrong thing, I think he would have popped her in the face. But he was pretty satisfied with her outbursts there. And the idea of her basically saying, like, to this crowd of like, hey, we may not have wanted you, but we still want someone. Like, what are we supposed to do? And she basically does the figure it out yourself. And I'm like, queen. They may be calling you king, but you queen in this moment, Jesus. Just really satisfying. And then the idea of her switching schools, and obviously her not just switching schools, not knowing anyone, she actually has a friend transfer. It felt good. It felt like this is a proper season finale. It ties up the arc in question in a brilliant way, conclusively. We still know where the future arcs are kind of going to go in terms of locating certain things. But in general, it didn't really feel like it left anything unfinished that shouldn't be unfinished. The only things that are left open are the ongoing plot lines of the overarching plot, but the current 2 plot lines we had in this season were brought to close in a brilliant way. Yeah, I want to see a season 2, but if they made me wait 2 or 3 years, it's not feeling like, oh man, they really blue balls us with that cliffhanger. No, it's a very satisfactory ending that I don't have a lot of issues. Like, the biggest issue I'd have about this show is that, yeah, like, in static, more slice of life stuff was sometimes the production, not in this episode, mind you, but in other episodes, pretty mediocre at times. Yeah, but you know, it's anime. I kind of expect that. It never looked abysmal. They always tried. I felt like in terms of creativity, it's one of, if not the most creative Demon Lord stories, period. And the cast top to bottom was incredibly fun. I mean, last week's episode, you had a Demon Lord. Like, I'm not saying this is the first time. I mean, Sid Kagano from Eminence and Shadow. He likes to show off his Excalibur too, but it's pretty funny when a Demon Lord's basically like, yes, your assets are mighty fine, but not as fine as this asset. And that's not even like, it's one of the funniest things that, if not the funniest thing that the show had, but it's not even close to like the best moment of the show, because the show's legitimately just great. It had absurdity, it had literally the first arc was like a psychopath Demon Lord story, and then we ended up in a misfitted Demon King Academy story, and it just naturally transitioned. Season 2, I would say, out of all the shows I watched this year, if I was to make a top 10, I would probably put this at number 10 of me hoping it gets a season 2. There's a lot of potential with this one, a lot of fun. I would hope, honestly, I like the way this show looked. I would hope maybe it just gets a little more time in the oven for season 2, but if they kept the same team and cast and everything, like, that would be great for me. But either way, cross my fingers for more. I really enjoyed this. I thought this was a great 8 out of 10 watch. Really excited for the future if we get to see it. Your thoughts down below. Leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new around here. Of course, ring that bell, and like I mentioned, we got those full live reactions over on Patreon, and hey, while you're over there, I'll also give you a video shout out. So today we got Jeff, Don, Chemis, Ricardo Pelego, Darthwin Wright, Eric Barton, James CR7, and we also have 𝑩𝒆𝒔. So I appreciate the support, everyone. Please take care. And if you ever find yourself in a situation like our girl did last week and someone's boldly announcing how much better their Excalibur is, never show your face to them again. Have a good one.